گفتمش شیرین ترین آواز چیست؟ چشم غمگینش به رویم خیره ماند. گفتمش شیرین ترین آواز چیست؟ چشم غمگینش به رویم خیره ماند. قطره قطره اشکش از مژگان چکید، لرز افتادش به گیسوی بلند. زیر لب غمناک خواند ناله زنجیرها بر دست من.
Good evening, everybody. How are you this evening? Let me just put my little sign away. That, of course, as the sign said, was the beautiful music of Godwin-Seidl. Oh, hi, Tim. How lovely to see you. I'm glowing. I'm glowing in candlelight tonight. Isn't that beautiful? I've sorted out some new candles as the other one's beginning to leak on my piano. So I'm going to turn Camiab down. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Joanna Godwin-Seidl, and I am your host this evening for another reading of 1001 Nights. If you would like to sponsor us and donate to us, you may do so by giving a small donation to www.paypal.me/Vienna Theatre Project. And we accept €1, we accept €100, we accept €1,000,000, we accept 10 million euros. So if you do want to support us, we would be very, very, very grateful indeed. In the meantime, I am going to start reading for you. And if you remember, it is the story of Isaac of Mosul, I believe. Yes, indeed. And he is a wonderful musician. We've actually met him in previous stories, but you'd have to go all the way back either on Facebook or on our YouTube page if you want to share any of our readings with friends and family members who don't have Facebook. Then we load up all of our readings onto YouTube as well after we've done them. And somewhere in the midst of all those other 400 stories, there is another story of Isaac of Mosul. But tonight we're talking about Isaac, and he gatecrashed a party because he followed a beautiful, talented, young singing lady to this party. And one of the guests caught him out and discovered that he was not an invited guest and has complained about him bitterly and complained about the fact that he meddled in her singing and corrected her lute. And now they have discovered that he can actually sing, because then he sang a tune himself too. So now, on the 409th night, the exciting story continues. Shahrazad said, "It has reached me, O auspicious king," that Isaac of Mosul thus continued, "Now, when I had finished my verse, there was not one of this company but sprang from his place and sat down like schoolboys before me, saying, 'Allah upon thee, O Lord, sing us another song.' 'With pleasure,' said I, and playing another measure in masterly fashion, sang thereto these couplets. Ho thou whose heart is melted down by force of Amar's fire, and griefs from every side against thy happiness conspire. Unlawful is that he who pierced my victuals with his shaft. My blood between my midriff and my breastbone he desire. 'Twas plain upon our severance day that he had set his mind, and on an eternal parting, moved by tongue of envious liar. He shreds my blood, he ne'er had shed except by wound or love, while none demand my blood of him, my wreak of him require. When I had made an end of this song, there was not one of them but rose to his feet and threw himself upon the ground for excess of delight. Then I cast the lute from my hand, but they said, Allah upon thee, do not on this wise, but let us hear another song, so Allah Almighty increase thee of his bounty. Replied I, O folk, I will sing you another song, and another, and another, and another, and will tell you who I am. I am Ishaq bin Ibrahim al-Muzili, and by Allah I bear myself proudly to the Caliph when he seeketh me. Ye have today made me hear abuse from an unmannerly carle, such as I loathe. And by Allah, I will not speak a word, nor sit with you, till ye put yonder quarrelsome churl out from among you. Quoth the fellow's companion to him, This is what I warned thee against, fearing for thy good name. So they hent him by the hand and thrust him out. And I took the lute and sang over again the songs of my own composing which the damsel had sung. Then I whispered the host that she had taken my heart and that I had no patience to abstain from her. Quoth he, She is thine on one condition. I asked, What is that? And he answered, It is that thou abide with us a month, when the damsel and all belonging to her of raiment and jewellery shall be thine. I rejoined, It is well, I will do this. So I tarried with him a whole month, whilst none knew where I was, and the Caliph sought me everywhere, but could come by no news of me. And at the end of this time, the merchant delivered to me the damsel, together with all that pertained to her of things of price, and a eunuch to attend upon her. So I brought all that to my lodgings, feeling as I were lord of the whole world, for exceeding delight in her. Then I rode forthright to Al-Mamun, and when I stood in the presence, he said, Woe to thee, O Ishaq! Where hast thou been? So I acquainted him with the story, and he said, Bring me this man at once. Thereupon I told him where he lived, and he sent and fetched him and questioned him of the case. When he repeated the story, and the Caliph said to him, Thou art a man of right generous mind, and it is only fitting that thou be aided in thy generosity. Then he ordered him 100,000 dirhams, and said to me, O Ishaq, bring the damsel before me. So I brought her to him, and she sang and delighted him. And being greatly gladdened by her, he said to me, I appoint her turn of service every Thursday, when she must come and sing to me from behind the curtain. And he ordered her 50,000 dirhams. So by Allah, I profited both myself and others by my ride. And amongst the tales, they tell one of the 3 Unfortunate lovers. Quoth Alladby, I was sitting one day with a company of educated men, telling stories of the folk, when the talk turned upon legends of lovers, and each of us said his say therean't. Now there was one in our company, an old man, who remained silent till all had spoken, and had no more to say. When quoth he, I shall tell you a thing, the like of which you had never heard. No, never? Yes, quoth we. And he said, know then, that I had a daughter who loved a youth, but we knew it not, while the youth loved a singing girl, who in her turn loved my daughter. One day I was present at an assembly wherein were also the youth, and Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day and ceased to say her permitted say. Now when it was the 410th night, she said, it hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the sheikh continued, one day I was present at an assembly wherein were also the youth and the singing girl, and he chanted to us these couplets. Prove how love bringeth low, love are those tears that run, lowering him still the more, when pity finds he none. Cried the youth, by Allah, thou hast said well, O my mistress, dost thou incite me to die? Answered the girl from behind the curtain, yes, if thou be a true lover. So he laid his head on a cushion and closed his eyes. And behold, when the cup came round for him, we shook him, and he was dead. Therewith we all flocked to him, and our pleasure was troubled, and we grieved and broke up at once. When I came home, my people took in bad parting my returning before the appointed time, and I told them what had befallen the youth, thinking that thereby I should greatly surprise them. My daughter heard my words, and rising went the sitting chamber into another, whither I followed her, and found her lying with her head on a cushion, even as I had told of the young man. So I shook her, and lo, she was dead. Then we laid her out and set forth next morning to bury her, whilst the friends of the young man set forth in like guise to bury him. As we were on the way to the burial place, we met a third funeral, and asking who it was, were told that it was that of the singing girl, who, hearing of my daughter's death, had done even as she did, and was dead. So we buried all three on one day, and this is the rarest tale that ever was heard of lovers. And they also tell the tale of how Abu Hasan broke wind. They recount that in the city of Korkaban of Al-Yaman, there was a man of the Fazli tribe who had left Badawi life and become a townsman for many years, and was a merchant of the most opulent merchants. His wife had deceased when both were young, and his friends were instant with him to marry again, ever quoting to him the words of the poet, "Go, gossip, re-wed thee, for prime draweth near. A wife is an almanac, good for the year." So, being wary of contention, Abu Hasan entered into negotiations with the old women who procure matches, and married a maid like Canopus when he hangeth over the seas of Al-Hind. He made high festival, therefore, bidding to the wedding banquet kith and kin, ulema and fakirs, friends and foes, and all his acquaintances of that countryside. The whole house was thrown open to feasting. There were rices of 5 several colours, and sherbets of as many more, and kids stuffed with walnuts, and almonds and pistachios, and a camel colt roasted whole. So they ate and drank and made mirth and merriment, and the bride was displayed in her 7 dresses and one more to the women, who could not take their eyes off her. At last, the bridegroom was summoned to the chamber where she sat enthroned, and he rose slowly and with dignity from his divan. But in doing so, for that he was over full of meat and drink, lo and behold, he let fly a fart, great and terrible. Thereupon each guest turned to his neighbour and talked aloud and made as though he had heard nothing, fearing for his life. But a consuming fire was lit in Abu Hasan's heart, so he pretended a call of nature, and in lieu of seeking the bride chamber, he went down to the house court and saddled his mare and rode off, weeping bitterly through the shadow of the night. In time, he reached Lahej, where he found a ship ready to sail for India. So he shipped on board and made Calicut of Malabar. Here he met with many Arabs, especially Hazramis, who recommended him to the king. And this king, who was a kafir, trusted him and advanced him to the captainship of his bodyguard. He remained 10 years in all solace and delight of life, at the end of which time he was seized with homesickness. And the longing to behold his native land was that of a lover pining for his beloved, and he came near to die of yearning desire. But his appointed day had not dawned, so after taking the first bath of health, he left the king without leave, and in due course landed at Makalla of Hazramat. Here he donned the rags of a religious, and, keeping his name and case secret, fared for Kalkaban afoot, enduring 1,000 hardships of hunger, thirst, and fatigue, and braving 1,000 dangers from the lion, the snake, and the ghoul. But when he drew near his old home, he looked down upon it from the hills with brimming eyes and said to himself, "Haply they might know thee, so I will wander about the outskirts and hearken to the folk. Allah grant that my case be not remembered by them." He listened carefully for 7 nights and 7 days, till it so chanced that he was sitting at the door of a hut and he heard the voice of a young girl saying, "Oh, my mother, tell me the day when I was born, for such an one of my companions is about to take an omen for me." And the mother answered, "Thou was born, O my daughter, on the very night when Abu Hasan farted." Now, the listener no sooner heard these words than he rose from the bench and fled away, saying to himself, "Verily, thy fart has become a date, which shall last for ever and ever, even as the poet said, as long as palms shall shift the flower, as long as palms shall sift the flower." And he ceased, not travelling and voyaging, and returned to India, and there abode in self-exile till he died. And the mercy of Allah be upon him. And they tell another story of the lovers of the Banu Tayy. Qasim, son of Adi, was wont to relate that a man of the Banu Tamim spake as follows: "I went out one day in search of an estray, and coming to the waters of the Banu Tayy, saw two companies of people near one another. And behold, those of one company were disputing amongst themselves even as the other. So I watched them and observed in one of the companies a youth wasted with sickness, as he were a worn-out, dried-up water-skin. And as I looked on him, lo, he repeated these couplets: What ails the beauty? She returneth not. Is beauty's irk or grudging to my lot? I sickened, and my friends all came to call. What stayed thee calling with that friendly knot? Hadst thou been sick, I had come running fast. To thee nor threats had kept me from the spot. Mid them I miss thee, and I lie alone. Sweetheart, to lose thy love, and loss I wot. His words, heard by a damsel in the other company, who hastened towards him, and when her people followed her, she fought them off. Then the youth caught sight of her and sprang up and ran toward her, whilst the people of his party ran after him and laid hold of him. However, he haled himself and freed himself from them, and she in like manner loosed herself. And when they were free, each ran to the other, meeting between the two parties, embraced, and fell dead upon the ground. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. I think I'm going to leave it as a nice short one this evening, everybody. I hope you all have a very, very beautiful evening. Thank you very much for listening in tonight. I will be back on Thursday evening to read for you. I will put up the music of Kamyab tonight on our 1001 Nights group page. Please do feel free to listen to it, and feel free to like, love, comment, share these readings with all your friends and families and foes. We're not particular. So look very, very much forward to reading for you again on Thursday. Sman will hopefully be back soon too. And don't forget, mark in the dates, the 21st and the 22nd of May. where both Saman and I will be reading live together, hopefully at the Palais Hanson Kempinski again in some very, very beautiful outfits. And we will be accompanied by the live music of Kamyab Sadiri and Bijan Dekordi. Thank you very much for listening in, everybody. Good night and take care. Bye-bye. God bless. Many blessings. Good night.